Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the Jon Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, Jon Campea. It's an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys join me here as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and I'm not looking forward to today, guys. As many of you know, I told you this before, I got this situation going on here. Yeah, there you go. A couple years ago, I told this story already. I was in one of my classes, got hit in the face, as you get hit in the face in these classes sometimes, and broke a tooth, no big deal, had a crown put on, but then the other day the crown fell out. Dentist tells me that the old dentist botched the crowning, and now they got to put in an implant, and I got to go do that today after the show, and I'm not looking forward to it. But anyway, hey, listen, guys, we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today, so let's get things going right away with a little segment we call the Movie News Feed. First up, in a recent interview, Marvel President Kevin Feige has confirmed that the audience can expect to see gay characters in the MCU in the form of current existing MCU characters and new characters we haven't seen on screen yet. From MovieWeb, the man in charge of the MCU was asked point blank about LGBT characters. When are we going to get such characters, and is that in the works? Feige simply said yes, and when pressed for clarification as to whether or not that's going to be a character we've already seen or a new character, Feige said both. He went on to clarify his point when he said the following: both ones you've seen and ones you haven't seen. Now, it should be pointed out that Tessa Thompson and director Taika Waititi have both stated that her Thor Ragnarok character, Valkyrie, is indeed a bisexual character, so we know of at least one in the MCU already. According to Feige, more will be coming. And to me, this just makes common sense. Look, the MCU haven't exactly been at the forefront of pushing boundaries and making big milestone changes, but when it does, it makes a big impact. Black Panther, for example, was by no means the first black superhero movie, but it had one of the biggest cultural impacts ever. They are a little bit behind the curve right now on having a gay or lesbian character in their movies as well. Now, some people are going to say things like, why is Marvel trying to force gay characters into these movies? Well, listen, according to a recent Gallup poll, as many as 4% of all Americans are gay, lesbian, or bisexual, or some mixture of that. That's like 1 out of every 25 people you come across would identify with that community. Once you get in an MCU that gets 15, 20 movies into it, by not having a gay, lesbian, or bisexual prominent character, you're not only not forcing them in, it starts to take on the appearance that you are forcibly trying to keep them out. Like when 1 in 25 people in America identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, what have you, and then you don't have them in a cinematic universe that's as big as the MCU now, it goes beyond just saying, oh, you're just trying to force them into the movie. No. It's starting to get to the point where you are forcibly trying to keep them out. So at some point, they do have to address that. Now, like we said, Taika Waititi and Tessa Thompson said that they saw her character Valkyrie as a bisexual character and that she played it as a bisexual character, even though they never kind of explored that part of her character in the movie, which is fine. That wasn't really needed in the movie. So I'm not surprised at all to hear Kevin Feige say that we've already got those characters in the MCU, such as in the form of Valkyrie. Whether they'll explore it a little bit more or not, we'll see. But also that we're going to get new characters moving forward. And again, once you get your cinematic universe to the size that the MCU is, you have to start addressing these things, so I think it's great. Next up, the financial woes of MoviePass have been well documented in recent months, and now, as expected, the announcement of AMC's movie subscription service, as well as MoviePass's announced plans to charge customers extra for high-demand movies, has pushed the stock value of MoviePass's parent company to new all-time lows. According to reports, Helios and Matheson, the parent company of MoviePass, their company stock has been declining since last October when it traded at $38.86 per share, and now it's all the way down to its all-time low of just 25 cents per share, taking another 15% drop. There's just simply no way to overplay this. Since they made their announcement about their big plan to drop from like $40 a month down to $9.99 a month, the stock of the company has gone from over $80 or $38 per share now down to 25 cents per share. That's like more than almost like a 97% drop. Now look, what's really interesting here is that this latest 15% drop came on the heels of the AMC announcement that AMC now has its own movie subscription service. That's really superior. But MoviePass thought they were going to make some announcements that might kind of keep those negative changes in effect, saying, hey, we're going to offer bring a friend, though you got to pay for them. We're going to offer see IMAX movies now, although you got to pay an extra charge. Oh, and by the way, now we're going to charge you extra if you go to see a popular movie at a popular time. All these things put together equated to another 15% drop in their stock when they need to get this stock up to over $1 a share. But again, wrap your head around this. This is a company that's stock value was at $38 per share, and now it sits at 25 cents. Look, I've been saying it for a long time. We're saying it again. MoviePass's time is done. Just start the clock now on when they finally announce that they're going out of business. Next up, as many of you know, Damon Lindelof has been developing a Watchmen series pilot for HBO, and yesterday, a new major casting announcement was made. According to reports, veteran and all-time great actor Jeremy Irons has joined the cast in what is being called a leading role. Not much is known about the role other than Irons will star as one of those original characters said to be an aging and imperious lord of a British manor. From coming soon, in a recent letter to fans, Lindelof himself made it clear that the Watchmen series won't be an adaptation of the comics, but an original story with new faces and unknown characters introduced into the universe that he intends to remix. So is the Jeremy Irons character indeed a new character? And how much of a true quote-unquote leading character will he be? Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough. Now, the Watchmen movie that came out a few years ago is a really divisive one. People seem to either absolutely hate that movie or absolutely love it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I didn't quite like it, but I didn't quite dislike it either. It's a meh movie to me. I could take it or leave it, but it has its fans and it has its detractors. As a result, I haven't been all that interested in this HBO series that they're going to give a shot to. Now, I was curious that Damon Lindelof was on board to do that, but I got to tell you what, they got my attention with some of their announced castings, like Don Johnson was announced recently as well, but casting Jeremy Irons, that is something else, because I just love this guy, whether he's the voice of Scar, whether he's Alfred, or all the other tons of great movies with fantastic performances that he has turned in. Bringing somebody like a Jeremy Irons on board and that cachet that he brings with him, I hate using that word, but it's true here. Bringing that cachet with him that he brings on board is enough to at least raise my eyebrow a little bit. Look, Jeremy Irons isn't going to make a bad show a good show, but it certainly can't hurt getting a guy of this talent level. Now, as far as The Watchmen itself, some people are criticizing, saying, well, listen, if you're not adapting the comic book, why even bother calling it The Watchmen? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see when the series comes out what Damon Lindelof really has in mind. Like, how close does it stick to the comic book, even though he's saying it's not an adaptation of the comic book? Is it something completely different? Is it something really similar? We're just going to have to wait and see. But for now, I'm going to say, adding on a guy like Jeremy Irons, it's a good move. And finally, actor Terry Crews has announced that he will not appear in the announced fourth installment of the Expendables franchise, which is expected to start shooting in early of 2019. The reason? Crews testified that in 2016 he was sexually assaulted by a powerful Hollywood agent by the name of Adam Vennet, who works at one of the most powerful agencies in Hollywood, William Morris. Now, Crews is currently pressing ahead with a lawsuit against both Vennet and his agency, William Morris. Crews now says that the producer of Expendables 4, a man by the name of Avi Lerner, has called Crews' manager to threaten him to stop the lawsuit or else Crews would face quote-unquote troubles. In response, Crews has decided not to appear in the Expendables 4. Terry Crews is obviously one of the more unlikely voices in the Me Too movement at this point. I mean, you never would have expected that, but hey, that's the culture we live in. We wouldn't expect something like that, right? But listen, so I'm not here to talk about that part. The part that really gets me is that here's Terry Crews, an individual who believes he was wrong. He's pursuing legal action against the people he believes wronged him. Okay, that's fine. For a producer of another movie, not directly connected to this situation, whether it's overtly or just kind of quietly, kind of ambiguously, making threats to say, you stop this legal action or else, hey, there might be trouble. It reminds me of dialogue for some kind of old mobster movie. Hey, I'd hate to see something bad happen to you. I mean, that's essentially what Terry Crews is facing now. Stop this lawsuit about what you're doing or else there's going to be some trouble. That's horrible. Now, right now, I'm going to tell you right away. William Morris, the agency, needs to disavow themselves of anything that has to do anything with this Avi Lerner guy. You got to dispatch this guy. You got to separate yourself from this guy. Whatever. This guy's name is now mud. To use positions of power to threaten other people with repercussions if they don't drop taking action against people who wronged them. I mean, if this is happening to Terry Crews, can you imagine the depth of crap that women have had to put up with in this industry at this point, with threats and assaults and all that kind of stuff? And by the way, it doesn't matter how badly you've been assaulted. You got to keep your mouth shut or else. Terry Crews is a dude who's in a particular position that maybe he can do something about it. But it's crazy to think that something like this would happen to a guy like that. It just boggles the imagination what's been done to a lot of women in this industry along the years. Anyway, this dude, Lerner, he got to go. Anyway, that'll do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed. And now you are all caught up to date with everything going on in the world of movie news, guys. Lots of stuff there. I'm sure you guys want to bring up some of that in the live section as well. But before we do that, let's get on to our main topics today. And of course, our main topics are submitted by you guys. How do you submit a topic or a question to be one of the main topics here on the Jon Campea Show? It's simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejoncampeashow.com. Once again, that's john@thejoncampeashow.com. Put that word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. So with that out of the way, let's get into main topic number one. And the first topic today comes to us from one of our Patreon supporters, Eric Castleberg, who writes, so I went to my nearby AMC theater to see Deadpool 2. The last 1/4 of the movie had a yellow film over it. I politely spoke to a manager. The manager looked at me with a blank face and screamed, "And what's your point?" Then said without blushing, "I will have to see if that's the way the movie's supposed to be." I'm not an entitled, greedy bastard, but I was floored that they didn't even offer the slightest compensation for such a glaring technical error. Okay, so Eric, by the way, sent along a picture. I wasn't able to bring it over, unfortunately. Eric sent along a picture of what he saw, because when it was happening on screen, you should never take out your phone in theater, but when this was happening, he took out his phone, took a picture of the screen as an example. And yeah, sure enough, you had the screen, and right down the middle of it, on one side, it looked fine. And then on the other side, it looked somebody took a yellow piece of film and put it over it. And it was just like really distracting. Now, this kind of came up the other day too, but I thought it was worth following up on. The interesting question is, what should movie theaters' responsibility be when something goes wrong? Now, look, I think we as consumers are way too entitled. Consumers have a way overdeveloped sense of entitlement. Like, nothing should ever go wrong. Hey, man, things go wrong. Things go wrong on your trip to work. Things go wrong in your house. Things go wrong in your bathroom. Things go wrong wherever. Things go wrong. Things happen, bad things happen, and that includes in a movie theater. And sometimes something goes wrong, like popcorn gets burned, a technical glitch on this or that, whatever, it happens. And I think for a long time, like consumers, being the entitled little whiny babies that we are, the moment anything slightly goes wrong, we cry and whine and complain. But in situations like this, hey, something goes wrong, okay, you bring it to the theater's attention. Hey, just so you know, something's wrong with the film here, and it's really making it difficult to watch. The question doesn't become, to me, the quality of a company to me is not about does something go wrong. It's about what does the company do to address it once something has gone wrong, because mistakes happen. And in a situation like this, for a manager to say to a consumer, hey, and when a consumer comes and says, hey, look, I paid to be here, and there's something wrong with the film, you should probably check it out. And what's your point? I mean, that is not the appropriate response to a consumer who's reporting a legitimate problem. Now, to be fair to this manager that same day probably had to deal with a dozen whiny, entitled little babies. It's like, I didn't like the taste of this one piece of popcorn. Give me $100. Like, they probably had to deal with a bunch of those people same day. So maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe they were fed up. But look, a movie theater is responsible for your experience. And I think when something bad does happen, we accept that bad things happen, but they need to take steps to make up for it. And like I said, my experiences in most theaters have always been very positive. Like when something goes wrong, the picture goes out, the sound isn't right. Most of the time, movie theaters are right on top of it. They give us free passes. They say, hey, folks, we're going to restart this movie for you from the beginning. Sorry for the inconvenience, but we're going to start this right from the beginning for you. or something else. They do something to compensate. And that's the big thing here. So I think, yeah, movie theater, they don't have a responsibility to give you $1,000, but I think they have a responsibility to try to do something to make up for it. And it really sucks, Eric, that you had that experience. And just for the record, like I said, I've found in my experience, 95% of the time when something bad does happen in a theater, and it doesn't happen often, I've often found, whether it's at an ArcLight in Hollywood or at an AMC theater or at any other movie theater chain, I've generally found that the staff has usually been pretty responsive. It's really sucks though that you had that one experience that I didn't, because they should treat you as a customer better than that. All right, next topic comes to us from Jeff Steinbeck, who writes, "Hey John, with Comic-Con right around the corner, what are the chances that with the premiere of the Aquaman trailer, they will announce a new release date for it as well? Thanks, and keep up the great work." All right, thanks a lot for the question, Jeff. And yes, it has been announced, we talked about this on the show the other day, that Warner Brothers is going to officially debut the trailer for Aquaman at Comic-Con. Very excited. By the way, I'm going to be at Comic-Con. I've got my annual panel this year, and this year the theme of my panel is developing, starting, and growing your own YouTube channel to contribute to the online fan community, and how to do that in a constructive way, in a positive way, and in ways that'll make it be fun for you. But anyway, I've got a great panel of people on it with me that I think are going to be really cool. But anyway, I'll talk more about that later. So Comic-Con's coming. They're going to be doing that. Now, Aquaman is in a really awkward position. We've talked about this sometime, but let's bring this up. Right now, Aquaman is scheduled to release on December 21st. That creates a bit of a problem, because here's the thing. The week before Aquaman opens, you've got this big Peter Jackson-produced movie, Mortal Engines, and you've got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, just 1 week before Aquaman opens. Now, let's look at the 21st, the week that Aquaman actually opens. It's opening against Alita Battle Angel, a Transformers movie in the form of Bumblebee, and by the way, everybody's loving that first trailer for Bumblebee, the Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly comedy Holmes and Watson, and now they just announced the other day that new Steve Carell film, Welcome to Marwen, that just dropped its first trailer, and that trailer looked awesome. It's now also opening on the 21st. So all on the same day, you got Alita Battle Angel, Aquaman, Bumblebee, Holmes and Watson, and Welcome to Marwen all on the same day, and the very next, just 5 days later, not even a full week later, you got Mary Poppins Returns. Mary Poppins, y'all. The very next week. Aquaman is in this swamp. And it's almost to the point that no matter how good this movie is, and with James Wan directing, it could be very good, it's going to face some real uphill battles when it comes to scraping together some of those box office dollars. All right. So there's been a lot of talk around by a lot of people talking about, hey, maybe Aquaman should move, maybe Aquaman should move. Okay, so I will tell you this. I had a chat with somebody that I know within Warner Brothers who told me this. I was asking about, are there any chances they're going to move this thing? What he told me was discussions have and are happening. So when I asked the question, are they going to, could they possibly move Aquaman? They just said discussions have and are happening. All right. What does that mean? Ultimately, it means nothing. I mean, ultimately that means nothing. However, it at least kind of confirms to me that the people at Warner Brothers are aware that this is a very tough spot they're in. That having Aquaman on that 21st day, just 1 week after Mortal Engines and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and opening on the same day as a Steve Carell movie, a Will Ferrell movie, Alita Battle Angel, and Bumblebee, with Mary Poppins opening just 5 days later, that's a tough spot to be in. So we know, at least at some point, Warner Brothers has discussed and is having some internal discussion about the possibility of moving. That does not mean it's going to move. Don't start running around saying, oh, did you hear Aquaman's moving? It very well may not be. Actually, I think it's likely that it won't move at this point. But I think it's safe to say that if they have decided to move Aquaman, which personally I've said all along, I think would be the right move. It would be the right business move to move Aquaman. I think you stand a much better chance for success if you move this thing. I think it stands to reason that if they do decide, or if they already have decided to move Aquaman, it seems to me the place you make that, no pun intended, splash is at Comic-Con. It seems to me that that would be the place to do it, to make a big thing saying, by the way, folks, you know you're waiting for December 21st? October, baby. And everybody would lose their minds. If they suddenly came out at Comic-Con and say, by the way, remember, it's happening at the end of July, August, September. By the way, guys, at Aquaman, you're going to wait till Christmas for? Coming out in 3 months. People would lose their minds. Or maybe they push it back. Maybe they push it into January or February or something like it. Whatever. All I know is that right now it's in this minefield. We do know that Warner Brothers has at least discussed the possibility of moving the date. Will they? I don't know. It seems a little bit late in the game to move it, so I'm going to guess that maybe they probably still won't move it, but the discussions have happened. Maybe it will. I'll say this. If they're going to move it, Comic-Con will be the place that they announce it. I feel very confident about that they'll want to take full advantage of the big hype machine. They'll want to spin it into a really big positive message, group it with the trailer dropping, because if the trailer's as good as we think it will be, you play that trailer and everyone's going, whoa, and then go, and it's opening in 3 months or 4 months or whatever. It's like, ah, like you just build on the hype, right? That would be the place to do it. So if they're moving it, and again, we don't know that they are, but if they do, it won't be before Comic-Con. It won't be after Comic-Con. I feel pretty good it will be there. Let's now sit and wait and see if it does. I'd give it an over and under right now. I'd give it about a 20% chance that they move it. It would be the smart move. Let's see what actually ultimately happens. All right, let's move on now to the final main topic of the day. And the final main topic today comes to us from Mike Smith, who writes, when MoviePass goes out of business, I assume it will owe the movie theaters millions of dollars. Will this decrease the box office of some recent movies, since the theaters and studios will not get this revenue? Well, actually, Mike, that's not really how it works. You see, the way it works is this. When I don't have my wallet here, but when I take my MoviePass card, and I still have it in my wallet, when I take my MoviePass card, and I go to the local movie theater, in my case, it's an AMC theater, and I say, I'm checking in, I want to go see this movie. I tell the MoviePass app which movie it is, what screening time it's at, and all that kind of stuff. Now, then the MoviePass app knows, okay, he's seeing, he's seeing Avengers Infinity War at 5 p.m. here at the AMC Burbank 16. We know the cost of that ticket is $14.26. What the app then does is transfer $14.26 to my MoviePass card, which is a MasterCard. Then I take that MasterCard to the AMC ticket kiosk and I buy my ticket. The money is instantly there. AMC doesn't give you your movie ticket on an IOU from MoviePass. MoviePass actually has to transfer that money immediately. AMC, in my case, the movie theater I go to, the AMC Burbank 16, they get their money instantly. So there has been this perception around that if MoviePass goes under, they'll go under still owing the theaters millions of dollars of movie ticket purchases. Actually, that's not the case. The fact of the matter is the moment you buy your ticket, that transaction happens. The money is moved from MoviePass onto the MoviePass MasterCard, from the MoviePass MasterCard to the movie theater you just bought your ticket from, and it all happens instantly. So if MoviePass does indeed go under anytime soon now, like I and probably most of you think it will, the good news is they won't be in a debt situation and the theaters won't be left with like millions of dollars of unpaid movie tickets. It's all squared. Okay, with that out of the way, guys, I got just a couple of minutes here. I got to cut today's show a little bit short because I got to go to the dentist and get that tooth finally fixed. All right, but we got a few minutes here, so let's take some live questions while we're here. The first live question comes to us from Caleb Bradford, who writes, do you think we'll see a Hellboy teaser at San Diego Comic-Con? Yeah, I think so. The movie's opening in January. The new Hellboy, I believe, opens in January. So that'll be about 6 months away from when Comic-Con happens. 6 months is a pretty decent window to launch a first trailer. I mean, it could be a little later than that, but that's not bad. And you're at Comic-Con. It's a Hellboy movie. It's Comic-Con. I think the chances are ridiculously high that we do get a Hellboy trailer dropped at Comic-Con. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just saying it stands to reason that they probably would. Jacob Vanco writes, let's see. What's the difference between AMC Prime and Dolby? Was going to buy A-List, but my local AMCs don't have Prime. Called AMC Corp and local. No one has the answer. Honestly, it's a confusing issue. Because before, I would go like AMC Prime installed all these Dolby systems, and it was just Dolby at AMC Prime. That's what all the Prime theaters were. Apparently, in the years since I've left AMC, it became differentiated. Now you've got Prime theaters that are still the big leather recliners with a Dolby Atmos sound system, but not necessarily the projection system, but still a really good, beautiful projection system, blah, blah, that's your Prime. Then you got Dolby Theater at AMC Prime, which is an AMC Prime with the Dolby dual laser projection system, which to me is the best in the industry right now. Then you've just got Dolby at AMC, which is kind of, to me, looks exactly like a Prime theater. So honestly, they have botched their messaging about what their theaters are. All I know is this: if at your local AMC they have a theater called a Dolby theater, it's pretty much on par with a Prime. You're good to go. Again, though, they have really messed up their messaging on this, because when you've got me, somebody who loves AMC theaters, I go to an AMC theater up the street from me. I worked at AMC theaters for years, and I have no freaking clue about how they differentiate all these little subdivisions of what theaters they call this and that. When that's the case, when somebody like me doesn't even know, that's a problem with your messaging. They need to get that kind of house in order. But I think as long as they got something there that's either called Prime or called Dolby, I think you're good to go. Okay, next one comes to us from Jack Hamilton, who writes, in general, what do you think of Jon Peters? Oh, I don't know. I don't know Jon Peters. I mean, look, the only thing I know about Jon Peters, and Jon Peters is, of course, the famous producer of a Superman producer that Kevin Smith told his infamous story about, right? The fact of the matter is, that's probably all you know about Jon Peters. That's really all I know about Jon Peters. I don't know anything about him, except for one story about one incident from one guy that happened 20 years ago. Other than that, I don't know anything about Jon Peters. I know that he was really big about, he participated in John Schnepp's amazing documentary, The Death of Superman Lives What Happened. I think that took a man. Knowing all the ridicule he's gotten because of the Kevin Smith story, that took a man with a spine to go and be on and be a part of that documentary. I thought he carried himself very well in that documentary, to be honest. But again, other than one story told by one guy about one incident that happened like 20 years ago, I don't know anything about Jon Peters. So I really don't have any opinion one way or the other about him. Jay Bling writes, it happened again. That Sandler/Aniston Netflix movie dropped a sizable casting bomb. Make me think Sandler might be doing something different this time. But then I read he's a producer. Damn it. I never get too terribly excited about casting. Like I got excited about the Jeremy Irons thing only because I'm kind of neutral on the whole Watchmen thing. Adding one of the great actors of our generation, Jeremy Irons, hey, that's good news. But let's be clear here. If you've got a bad movie in the making, adding great actors isn't going to change a bad movie into a good movie. It's still the same story. It's still the same dialogue. It's still, everything that's wrong with it will still be wrong with it. You'll just happen to get performers that'll get the best out of the character that they can. Adam Sandler's Netflix stuff has been nothing but unmitigated vomit. There's a one he did with Ben Stiller that was actually pretty good, but that wasn't his movie per se, and it was more dramatic. And Adam Sandler's awesome dramatically. When Adam Sandler needs to do more drama, in my opinion. But yeah, so I'm not going to be too swayed one or the other, to be honest with you, Jay Bling, about that. Jay Bling follows up with also Skyscraper screening tomorrow for me. Yeah, you know what? I'm looking forward to Skyscraper. I don't think the trailers have been all that great. But, you know, hearing Dwayne Johnson talk about how it's a little bit of an ode, an homage to Die Hard and things like that, it looks like it could have some fun. So, yeah, I'm good on you, man, for going to go see that tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm hoping it's just going to be a good, fun time in the theaters. That's all I'm looking for. I ain't looking for Godfather. I'm just looking for a good, fun, entertaining time in the theater. We'll see if it delivers on that. Jake C. writes, Aquaman's trailer, dark like Batman vs. Superman or funny like Justice League? Oh, I think it's pretty safe to assume it'll be somewhere in between. I think it's safe to assume it'll be somewhere right down the middle of that. I think they've learned they can't go too dark on these things because that didn't work for them. Although I contend tone has never been part of the problem with the DCEU. I mean, Nolan's Batman trilogy was dark and it was fine. So I never thought tone was the problem. But they do seem to be mixing it up a little bit. So I think it's going to be a little heaviness to it with some good humor. I'm expecting a nice balance of both. That's why. And look, it's James Wan, right? Look at the trailers we get with a lot of, especially with this Fast and Furious stuff. Give you some of the intensity of the movie with some of the light humor of the movie. I think they're going to give us both. All right, final question of the day, guys. Again, I have to cut today a little bit short because I need to go over and get my tooth fixed. Jake C, or no, I already did Jake C. Jack Hamilton writes, imagine a world where the MCU existed in the 1980s. It's tough to imagine. You couldn't have done the MCU in the 80s like they were able to do today. There are just things you couldn't have pulled off. And a lot of things you could have tried to pull off and they just would have looked silly. Hulk would have still been Lou Ferrigno in green body paint. Or some other actor, but it probably would have been Lou Ferrigno. He was monstrous still in the 80s. So, yeah, I don't know that you could have had it. There are just certain things that they were able to make believable today that they couldn't have made believable back then. You know what I mean? So I think the success of the MCU is a mixture of, fun filmmaking, great stories at the right time. I think the at the right time part is an important part of the mixture of the success of the MCU. And I'm just not so convinced that it would have had the same success at all in the 1980s. I think you would have tried to do Iron Man and it would have come across as a silly dude in a tin suit and you wouldn't have had anything after that. So it's about the right stories being made by the right people, released at the right time. And that right time part is an important part of, I think, why the MCU has been so successful. Anyway, guys, listen, a whole bunch of you guys have still sent in more live questions. I'm going to take those. I'm going to put them in tomorrow's companion video. I was supposed to do one yesterday, but I forgot I had a function I committed to last night. My apologies. There was supposed to be a companion video up this morning. I didn't have a chance to get around to doing that. I will do my best to have it up tomorrow morning, depending on how much of a space monkey I am after this dental appointment. Like if I'm, actually maybe that, you know what? Maybe that'll make the companion video more fun if I record it tonight, still hopped up on all the Novocaine, which isn't too different from how I normally come across, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, keep your eye open for that. So don't worry, guys. All you guys from Luna Comics all the way down, don't worry. All these questions will be put into the next companion video. Hopefully tomorrow, maybe I'll be a space monkey. Maybe I'll be coherent. Who knows? That's part of the adventure. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for being here today. My name's Jon Campea. And until oh my gosh, will I do open mic today? I'll really be spaced out. I don't even know. For all I know, I don't know if I'm going to have open mic today. I don't know if my procedure is going to take 2 hours or if it's going to take 5 hours. I simply don't know. So follow me on Twitter. I'll let you guys know. Anyway, thanks for being here, guys. I love having you guys here. Thanks for joining with me, talking about our favorite things in the world movies. My name's Jon Campea. Next time you see me, I have some kind of tooth. And until next time, bye-bye.